Going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Sports to the Wire. I'm your host, as always, Rashid White. All right, so we're going to get into another Dreamers Whole video. It's going to be about JJ Redick, Cam Johnson, and he believes that JJ Redick is actually making excuses for what happened to the Team USA in the FIBA World Cup games. All right, so I'm going to explain to you, and I'm really piggyback on what JJ Redick is actually saying, probably get into it a little bit more and explain to the Dreamers Ho over here that why the actual Team USA is actually struggling. But let's get into this video here and let's see what he actually has to say. And I'm gonna try to be nice over here to Dreamers Pro over here, Charles. I'm gonna try to be nice and professional here.
At the fact that you could be in the lane for 3 seconds. There's no D3. Like even Schroeder's blow by at the end of the game against Germany. Like the help should have been there on Austin Reeves. He's got Austin Reeves and ISO. Like, what do you think he's gonna do?
Yeah.
The help should have been there quicker.
Yeah.
There's no and you watch the other team play defense against us, and they're packing the paint. And that's where I think the roster, look, I don't think we had enough shooting. I know Cam Johnson was on the roster. He's an incredible shooter. A bunch of these guys have shot 40% or close to 40% or better than 40% in their careers. Not in their careers, but in certain years in their careers. So it's not to say we don't have guys that can shoot the ball. And like from the games, you know, I didn't watch the New Zealand game. I watched pretty much every other game. From the games, like I'm proud of our group. I don't think it was an effort issue. I go back to some roster limitations, and I go back to not quite grasping FIBA basketball, because it is very different than the NBA, which brings me to my next thing that I want to say. I saw a lot of weird discourse on Twitter bashing our guys, right? Started with Brandon Ingram, who I've already talked about. Coach Case said this about, I can't remember who he was talking to specifically about, but he said this: when these guys play for their national team, they turn into Michael Jordan. You think about Luis Scola, very good NBA player. Incredible for Argentina. Evan Fournier, very good NBA player for a number of years. Last World Cup, he was Michael Jordan. At the Olympics, he was Michael Jordan for France. Patty's a little bit older. He killed us multiple times in the past. And so this brings me to why the knocking of our players is so ludicrous. Think about the human nature of this. You play a role on the Knicks, you play a role on the Pacers, you play a role on the Wolves, you play a role on the Nets. Whatever that role is, it's a role where you get to star. You get the ball in your hands, you get plays called for, you get to operate the offense. We're asking you to sacrifice. Let's flip that. You're the backup point guard. You're our spot-up shooter. You're a guy that's coming off catch and shoot. Your only thing you're going to do is play two-man game with Julius Randle. Now, you're on the national team. We're running every play for you. Who do you think's more excited about their role? What is the
Yeah, and JJ Redick actually really makes an excellent point here. Excellent point. I mean, let's just keep listening.
The nature of that. Who do you think's more excited? The guys that are getting a bigger role, or the guys that are getting a lesser role?
So you heard what JJ Redick had to say there. So what happened? Recently, he had on a guest, Cam Johnson, who used to be a member of the Phoenix Suns. Very great young player, great shooter, versatile player. And he was also a member of that Team USA roster alongside Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves, Jaren Jackson Jr., and so many other young guys, right? But he was a part of that squad that lost the tournament. So what happened? They start talking about what happened. And to my surprise, Cam Johnson, as JJ Redick wanted to get it into his whole defense case, Cam Johnson goes, no. There is no reason. There's no excuse for us going out there and getting embarrassed the way that we did, to the point where we didn't even win a single medal in the tournament for us to be sitting up here making excuses. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly the moment Cam Johnson took.
All right, so just to fast forward for anybody that is checking out of this video, Cam Johnson is actually saying, yes, we're not supposed to lose to this team, but you got to remember, man, a lot of these guys, you're talking about Brandon Ingram, Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves, all these guys are young players. People think that, these guys are actually in the pros and they should, no. These guys are still learning actually how to play the game of basketball. And JJ Redick is 5,000% correct. He's not making excuses. He's explaining something to you. If you're used to actually playing with a certain set of rules, and this is what we call different levels of conscious competence, like competency. All right, so you got conscious competence, conscious uncompetence, unconscious competence. So these guys have it in their mind that this is the way the rules are in the NBA. There's a 3-second, like he said, D3, 3-second in the paint. And in FIBA, they don't actually do that. They pack the paint. The 3-point line is actually closer. Most people actually toe the line. All right, so there's not a lot of guys out there that's like Dame or Steph that's going to pull from 35 something feet. That's not really even an efficient shot anyway. But Dreamers Pro over here, Charles, my man does not know the game of basketball. All right, so JJ Redick is just explaining what happened. He's not making excuses or anything like that. All right, if you have 6 weeks to actually learn how to play together, learn how to, it's different when you have guys that's been playing years and years and years together and they have more time to practice and more time to gel. All right, so I will go out there, I will play some 3-on-3s, my boy Dante Roberto and I. We will go around New York City. We would just go out and play 3-on-3s. We already had a system in place. We would beat mostly every single every team because we just play together all the time. We know exactly what we're going to do. So JJ Redick is just explaining what happened. He's not making excuses. There's a difference of making excuses. And on top of that, they did not send the best players down there.
Told JJ Redick to his face that, listen, no, there are no excuses. And excuse making is the problem that we're having right now. So take a listen to what Cam Johnson had to say here to JJ Redick, and then we'll come back and give you guys our closing thoughts. Take a listen to that.
I don't want to say I defended you guys and the result, but I tried on the podcast to, I think, provide a little bit of context. And whether you want to call it an excuse or not, I said, look, here's the roster. Here are some players that could have been on the team. You look across the world and not everybody showed up, but a lot of the best players for their country showed up. FIBA is a different thing, right? I think what's interesting is taking a step back in your role versus what a lot of guys who go play for their national team, they get to take a step up in terms of their role, and that's an adjustment. On those two things, I don't want to get into the roster because I don't really give a about that, but like on those two things, the FIBA rules and how that game is played, and also just what I'm talking about in terms of roles and kind of figuring that out in 3 or 4 weeks, just the difficulty and the experience of trying to do that and win at the highest level.
Yeah. Firstly, there's no excuse for not winning, right?
I didn't say it wasn't. Yeah.
So I'm not going to, it hurts us individually, collectively, as much as more than anybody. It's disappointing. You put a lot of time into those things, and you want the outcome that you want. You don't get it. It's very frustrating. FIBA's a different game. FIBA's it's a different game, and like you see guys playing for their national teams, like you said, they're you can't treat them like the players there in the NBA. You just can't, and just the flow of the game, the way it's played, the way it's officiated, minor rule changes, it's different. And there's different focuses, when you're playing a team. Everybody in the NBA sort of plays a very similar style of basketball. Like there has been a style of basketball that analytically or success wise has dictated how other teams. It's a copycat league.
Pretty much your whole career.
And it's a copycat.
Everybody's
league.
kind of played.
It's a
similar
It's a
way.
copycat league. Eventually,
100%.
everything's going to catch up and evolve. But FIBA, the physicality is different. The way they play is different, and they don't really care. How the game's played in the NBA. They're going to play. They're going to play their way. So it was a super interesting experience to see that, and it opened our eyes quickly as we're playing against Slovenia and Spain in those exhibition games. That they're like. Those teams run offenses very efficiently. Like you can tell they've been playing together for a long time. So it's like, okay, this is what we're in store for. Also, they crash the glass like, nobody's business, and they're just efficient. Like they're accountable. They play hard. They play for each other. So on a basketball, like on just a pure basketball side of things, like it's beautiful to watch, right? Like, it's basketball globally. Everybody's speaking different languages. Everybody looks completely different. And everybody's able to kind of play their own style of basketball. I do think, obviously, even the group, people say we didn't have this, we didn't have that, we should have sent this.
You guys had a bunch of awesome NBA players.
We had really good NBA players. There's no excuse not to win. But just the nature, it's basketball, the nature of the game.
And so everybody's like, well, how did Team USA give up this many points? I'm like, because they're defending 4 or 5 actions on a possession. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not, this is not an excuse. You have a month, and it's a learning curve. And as NBA players, how many teams play like that? Maybe one?
Right.
Maybe Golden State?
Maybe. Right.
Maybe. It's a different thing.
So, yeah, and that's a huge part of it. And we understood that. Everybody understands going to FIBA, like, we have 6 weeks to become a team, and that is not. We weren't blind to that, but everybody's trying to figure out their role. Everybody's trying to figure out where they lie in the rotation. The coaches are trying to figure it out. There's stuff to it that makes it more difficult than it may seem on the outside. But man, at the end of the day, I don't feel like we should have lost. We lost by 2 points, and we lost by Lithuania by 5 points. It's Canada went to overtime. These are not like runaway games. These are games where Germany, Obst, their 3-point shooter, had 9 foul shots off of 3.
Yeah.
Like just
3
little
plays.
subtleties of the game.
All right, so my camera's acting up, man. I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. But yeah, exactly. Cam Johnson is pretty much agreeing with what actually JJ Redick is saying. And always Dreamers Pro, always actually just trying to really twist things and take things out of context, lie pretty much, just to sell you, just to get you to click pretty much. That's exactly what he's just really doing over there. And I'm just, trying to point it out to you guys over there, man. Yeah, but I mean, getting back to highlighting on what Cam Johnson is saying, the rules, the way it's officiated, you have 5 fouls, the way guys can actually get into your space because the 3-point line is actually shorter. I mean, it's an adjustment, and you're talking about Cam Johnson is 27 years old, Mikhail's like a little bit like 26, but a lot of these guys are role players. You're even kind of asking like the star players to say, hey, I want you to actually play a different role, like Brandon Ingram to be, a catch and shoot player, and when he's actually not really used to really doing that. I mean, it takes time to kind of, these are not like guys that just goes out to the park and I mean, Brandon Ingram has been like the main guy. Like the featured guy, ball in his hands, has the responsibility of initiating the offense, and you want to take that away from him and say, hey, do something different. Now, again, Brandon Ingram is a young player. These are young players. Okay? Young players. Not older, 30, 32, 33 years old, 34. Not everybody can actually do it. Yeah, so don't listen to Dreamers Pro, man. Again, he just lies about what JJ Redick is saying and just try to placate to your emotions. I'll wrap this video up. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. Certainly share this video, and when you share, the universe certainly shares back with you. Peace.